I'm going to try to be very quick, brief, direct with this video. I don't want to go on and on and on because what I'm going to do is just show you my final document. Though it's not final, I wouldn't submit this yet, but I'm running out of time. And I had told you before that actually finishing the work is about half of the deal. I've put in about, I'm guessing, 3 to 4 hours already, and I'm not even done with sort of my final summary of everything we found. But let's get to it. And this is going to be similar to what I did for our virtual lecture last week, but I forgot to record it like the silly man I am. So this is the policyholder information. This was given originally. I estimated what the 2023 and 2024 EMRs could be based on the by dividing the expected or estimated claims or total amount paid divided by the expected. And so for from 2017 to 2019, which is what this year's is based on, I got right around a 0.76 with that basic calculation, which is obviously 0.1 below. But then if I did it for 2018, 2020, it actually ticked down a little bit. So that's where I estimated that their EMR may go down. And I think it will because an expensive year came off the list. So the paid total went from 530 to 515. So they should see a little bit of a tick there, a little bit. And it's definitely below what we would consider the expected number of claims, which I estimated to be right around $700,000, based on the loss ratio of about 60% and an estimated base premium of a little over 1.1 million, which is, I used a reverse EMR to figure that out. And then as far as when we go into the future, you can look and see, what 2017, 2018, 2019 might be. If a low year rolls off and a higher year rolls on, it goes up. And that's what I was kind of estimating for 2024. And that's primarily due to the increase based on COVID claims in 2020 and 2021, though 2021 still has some maturing to do. Did I do EMR breakdown? Yeah, this is all the data I did for the EMR. It's just basically the annual trending. So I've got my descriptives. Make sure that so here's what I want. I want to be able to click on descriptives. I hope it starts like around your policyholder information and you did some work there. Then what I'd like to do is click over to descriptives, see a pretty table, and then have some comments here on what was found. And then the distribution and some comments here of what you found, though this is pretty self-explanatory. Let's see. We did outliers. I would like to see, the results there. So a stacked table, like these two and what the difference is. I'd like to see this curve. I also did it different ways. I did it with 21. This is my trend experiment, so that's why it looks so weird. I did the 21 removed, and then I did it with 34 removed, and that's the one I went with. I felt better with it. Here's the annual trends. I do want to be able to see the main two, so the number of claims and the total cost paid. I want to see an R-square value. I know they're not going to be that good when it's everything. And I know it's everything because I can look up here to this total and see 717. I know nothing's been removed. This is with 21 outliers removed, and I know that because I can look at the total and I can figure out the difference. It's still not looking good. Let's see. Then I did it with the COVID, and we started seeing some positive. And then we did it with COVID and 34 removed, and obviously it looks a lot better. R-squares look better except for this one, but still, overall you see the dots are more aligned with the best fit lines, and so that's a finding right there. That annual trend, when it's like this, number of claims look to be going up. The costs looks like they're not changing a lot, even though this is going down slightly. We also know that there's some open claims in here too. But when we remove outliers and we remove the COVID claims, things are looking good. So I would say with 34 outliers removed and state what they represented, the forecasting in the future, it looks like the CD program is performing well. We just got to find other opportunities or find ways to mitigate the most expensive claims. And we're still going to try to identify where we should be focusing our attention, or the company should be focusing their attention, to try and understand what we could do to reduce what are the primary causes of injury for the areas that are experiencing them the most. That was very well said, so write that down. For the policy class code, we thought all was good. You know, 8829 to 8826 looked like they were pretty positive. Remove the outliers, they were still 1 and 2. Then we removed the COVID, and then we realized, uh-oh, not what we thought. So 8829 really stands out now as being the one we're going to look at. But we also know, and it'll come up later when I started trending it, that's when I found out that 8829 only had claims filed from 2015 to 2019. 8826 only had claims filed in 2020 and 2021. And 8824 and 8810, not much there. So policy class code, even though we did a lot of work with it, is unusable. That's my determination. Though it was interesting to see that there was no correlation really between average and rate. Unless we did, when we removed the outliers and the COVID, did we get any sort of? So this is the highest, and that's the highest. That's the lowest, and that's the lowest. So then we got a little bit of consistency there, though I think the other two flip-flopped. I think it's interesting. For location, again, this is the 717. We had our priorities. Remove the outliers. Changed a little bit, but still top 5 was top 5, and 5 stayed 5, and so I think we decided the top 4 based on the Pareto ratio looks pretty good. That's what we should focus on. Remove the COVID, and it was interesting. 302 fell out of favor, and 305 dropped from 1 to 4 and 3. So there's some interest here. 307 used to be 2, now it's number 1. So I'd like to keep an eye on 307, 305, and 302 later on. Though we've got our priorities here. Here's the Pareto for it. Accent source all. And we kind of saw 30 entries, and we had our priorities. COVID was number 1. Took out the outliers. There were 3 outliers, 3 COVID claims in the outliers. It's still number 1, so we really want to ignore that and just kind of look at the rest of them. But the top 6 didn't change. Interestingly enough, did not change. In those top 6, we've got the percentages here, though I should have placed what this is actually over here. The 27% divided by the 34%. And of course, I have to reduce the number of decimal points because Excel... Yeah, that's all I have to say. I think you guys understand. Because of Excel. We're at 79%. So top 6 is still a valid cutoff point using the Pareto. But then we created the new cause. Am I going to get a beep? Yep, there was the beep. Created the new cause. Where are you, new cause? There you are. COVID ranked number 1. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Overexertion, patient-related ranked number 1. So went above COVID. That was nice. Slip, trip, and fall, overexertion. Top 3, gave us what we wanted. Removed the outliers. COVID became number 1. We're not going to count it. And then we're going to look at the next 4, I believe. So top 5, that gives us what we want. This is my forecast base. You guys remember that video. So what I want to do is be able to click through these tabs and see this kind of centered the same way. I can see what you have for the table, and I can see what you did. I can look at the figures to the left and see how you estimated them, and then make sure that the outlier stuff all works out. So I'll be checking that work, so you better check it too. Here's something that's new that I did, and I did it because of the work I've been doing to try to understand everything, is I did it just for outliers. 34 outliers. Estimated loss is about 140, and that's based on the lowest annual amount paid for an outlier, 140. Let me go back to the forecasted base, 140. That doesn't always happen, but what I'm saying is this is with 34 outliers removed. So the outliers alone would account for an estimated, and this is a conservative estimate, 140. With all the outliers, everything else, about 140. So it just goes to show that by removing the outliers, we're being conservative, and that's what we want to do. We should be able to meet the expectations or the promises we're making. Here's the COVID-only claims. I was wondering, what they might be. We do know that it's only 2 years worth. I think what I do is probably slip in the lowest of the 2, which would be 40,000, because hopefully they keep going down. Just the 3 outliers. But more importantly, what we can do with just the COVID claims is we can look and see where they occurred. And we can do the same thing with the outliers. I'm going to go back to it real quick. You can see 29 of the 34 outliers were in 8829. For location, L305 had the most. And there were 555. As far as amounts, yeah, L305 definitely had the most. Look at that. Though L307 had quite a bit too. And then we look down here, slip, trip, and fall had the most outlier claims, followed closely by resident assisting, but that was accident source. Let's go to the new cause. New cause, patient overexertion number 1, slip, trip, and fall number 2. They dominated. They represented 25 of the 34. So you see what you can do? You can actually, kind of dig a little bit deeper when you narrow the data to just a particular aspect that you want to look at. So I thought that was kind of cool. So that was for the outliers. For COVID, go to that real quick. You can see that most of them occurred in 8826, none in 8829, 52 in 8824. You see, it just doesn't help a lot. From an accident location, I've got a bug in my throat. 46 of them were in 302, 40 or 30. See, that's not a big spread. It's like they were all over the place, except they were not in these two, but these two never ranked really for us. So I thought that was interesting. So that I did 8824 and 8810 together. Not great. No real good findings. 8826 wasn't great because it was just 2020 and 2021. And then we had the 8829. You see, I just want to be able to flip through these and see what you got. Even though I put in all this work to do the policy class code, in the end, I can't rely on it. Even though I did some calculations and I got numbers, I can't present it to management. I don't trust it because of the years being jumped around and the COVID being located in one thing. So then I went to the accident location. Here, I've got my L307 base, and so I resorted by new cause to see what's here. So I'm going to have 2 investigations here under L307. I'm going to look at overexertion, patient-related, and overexertion. That's what I'm seeing here. And so I want to be able to see this for the base for these, and then see that you went and investigated those 2 priorities, because that's what you identified. L304... see again, I identified slip, trip, and fall and overexertion. So therefore I want to see L304, slip, trip, and fall, and overexertion, and see what you get. Okay? Be able to see the estimates. And I could keep going on and on. L302 looks like just slip, trip, and fall. Did I just do one, or I did? Yeah, I just did one. For 305 base, I've got overexertion, slip, trip, and fall. It's patient-related overexertion and slip, trip, and fall. For the 303 base, I've got overexertion, patient-related, and slip, trip, and fall. There seems to be a fairly consistent trend here. Pattern's probably a better word. And then L306. L306. This is not centered the way it was supposed to be. I've got slip, trip, and fall and overexertion patient-related. And so that's what I did. Not all generated what I had wanted. They were lower amounts, but it's conservative. So I got my final results. I do have the policy class codes up here, but they're nice numbers. It looks really good. It's not reliable. But I can defend these. These are much more conservative. You see here, I got 11 of them, based on what the Pareto said. But this bottom 4 here, there were no outliers removed, and it was hard to justify these small amounts. So I shaded it. Actually, I didn't shade this, did I? I should have. Shaded it. I didn't include it. So this is the top 7 priorities. Estimated amount for this location, this cause code. It is sorted high to low. Is about $59,000. I'm asking for $47,000. Not including $1.5 million in outliers that are not included in these estimates. One outlier, the average is about $75,000. So this should be, we'd probably in the real world round this up to like 50 grand. Very justified. We should be able to easily exceed 25% ROI in the first year because these numbers are so low. But at least we know where to focus. Slip, trip, and fall, patient overexertion, and we have some areas identified. 305 is on here twice. 30. Otherwise, it's kind of spread, isn't it? 7, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's two 305s, and then there's all the rest. So this is going to be like a company-wide slip, trip, and fall prevention and patient overexertion prevention. Interesting, right? So now let's get to the main part of the show, and that is I started another tab called Prep for Report. You can call it planning document, whatever you want. And this is where we're going to start bringing everything together. So first of all, what I did is I listed my study objectives. And this can look just like the planning documents we used earlier in the semester. It's the same general idea. So we're supposed to assess the quality of the data, the performance of the safety program, priorities by location and cause, estimated losses for the priorities, and then a requested investment from management. Who are we presenting to? Primarily to the decision makers, but they're really only going to read the executive summary. Floor managers and supervisors may actually read the report. And we want to think of these two things separately. We're writing the executive summary for the upper management. We want them to understand this is what was done, this is what was found, this is what needs to be done. That's it. Whereas the technical report is going to be much, much longer, much, much explanatory. You can have almost everything in there, but the executive summary has to narrow. But we have to start somewhere. So I started listing my main findings, and I started bringing over copying and pasting with a link. So picture with a link primarily, things from the tabs. And what I did is I just moved my prep tab down at the beginning and just started moving it along. What are my main findings? I talked about the outliers and what they represented. After the outliers were removed, how it changed the average and the median amount. Talked about the COVID claims and what they represented. I talked about the overall distribution and the issue with not meeting the basic assumption of normality, that the data set is skewed. Talked about the annual trends, the overall annual trends and what it meant. Basically, when the outliers and the COVID claims were removed, the company looks like it's performing well. There's success, but there is definite opportunity to either continue or accelerate that success. That in 2020, the company's experience mod was 0.86. And so I kind of talk about what I would expand on this more if I had more time. But that what it came down to is, yes, this year they have an EMR of 0.86. That's good. But based on my estimations, using the 3-year average, it's going to go down next year. So in 2023, it's going to go down. But in 2024, it should come back up, like above what it is this year. And I want to let them know for reference that for every 0.01 change in the EMR, that's about $100,000 in annual premiums. It goes up or goes down. You got to choose. I thought that was a pretty cool finding, and I was working on that for a while. Next is the priorities by policy class code. I didn't want to say too much other than it was. I basically at this point had made the indication that it's not likely the policy class code can be used as a reliable variable for assessing priorities. It should be assessing priorities and estimating future losses as a basis for requesting investment. Okay, that's better. Oh, it's raining outside. Next, I did similar language, but the focus on accident location. I talked about how it changed before and after the outliers were removed. And then I was going to talk about the same process and the results for the accident source, which I have the table right here. And then the new cause code, which I have the table right here. Again, I'm trying to explain things based on what the results, the main interest of these results are, and not just saying everything. And then I was going to talk about my outliers only. My, what the heck? This is the base, for the foundational estimations without outliers. This is just the outliers. This is just COVID. And I went over that already with you. And then I go from there and I just get into my final results. So I still have some interpretation and write-up to do, but what I'm really trying to do is bring in numbers, bring in an interpretation with support. That's what I'm doing. And then once I've got this all done, I'm going to have to start narrowing it into a narrative that this is the data set that was analyzed to try and find out how the company's safety program is performing and what could be done to improve it. And so I'm going to have to narrow down. So I'll be talking about the outliers. I'll be talking about the COVID claims. I'll be talking about the priorities by accident location and by new cause code, and where I think the company should focus, how much they should invest, and how what could come out of that investment. And I'll probably bring it back to the EMR, that reducing just a few outliers, reducing just a few, or actually attempting to and finding success in controlling the slip, trips, and falls, and the patient-related overexertion. The company could bring down that EMR to a point where it's a sustainable number where they could be reinvesting. Now, I want to just go back to something I said earlier in the semester, where we could do estimations and make recommendations for the company to pursue self-insurance, so that they don't have to pay that overhead to an insurer. But some companies like that security it provides. So you have to decide how you want to say that. But I'm really building up a case to say, did you know that based on the way things look now and the trends, in investing in the safety program now, that the company could save in upwards of $500,000 a year from the premiums they're paying if they just paid it out of pocket. And over time, that money can be set aside to build a big savings account, not only to take care of any injuries that occur and to provide financial security for the company, but to always have money being reinvested into workers. And that is a great thing. So I've gotten 22 minutes. I didn't want to go this long, but make sure you all are cleaning up. Remember, I want to be able to the faster I can click through this and see that, yeah, they did the things and they interpreted it and then come up with this prep for the report, the better you'll be. And I also said, this right here, this stuff right here, and some of the cleaning I've done, that's been at least 4 hours I've put into it. And I would have kept going, but I want to make this video. But I think I've got everything I want here for the elements, and now I just have to kind of put it all together and type it up. That's what I need you to do. Do the best you can. We still have once you turn in the Excel, you still have another week to write the report and put together your presentation. We'll talk about that in lecture, and I may actually provide one more of these in which I provide you a sample based on this data here and what I would say to management once I've completed these main findings and narrowed it to exactly what I'd want my not only presentation to say, but my executive summary to say. So reach out if you got any questions.